And so I'm gonna see if anybody came up with any questions today. Did you come up with any questions today? Did you?
Only question for the anatomy, the system. Like I know.
Okay. We'll see.
I don't want to know because my question is like, go back to the beginning.
Have some people waiting. There. So I think I'm sharing. I am sharing. And what are we going to look at? I don't know. We'll see. What everybody wants to talk about. Okay, well, I guess that's it. Looks like we have 14 people plus one in the auditorium, one lonely little student. But that's okay. Look, today is Tuesday, April 6th, 2021. It is now 11 a.m. And you guys are biology 1160, section 2, my Tuesday, Thursday class. And last Thursday, we finished up all of our material for our third exam. And I told y'all, what are we going to do this week? Well, Thursday of this week is your test, which is the 8th, right? Yeah. And then today, Tuesday, I said, what I can do is have like a question and answer kind of thing. So let's open it up like that. And because that's the best I can do as far as a review. I don't really have like a review, but I can answer questions if you had any material that you wanted to kind of go back over or anything like that. So feel free to unmute yourself and ask a question. Anybody?
Okay, I have a question about the glands on the eyes.
Okay.
Okay, so the meibomian gland, that's a sebaceous gland, and then the cellular gland, the ones of mole or however you say it, that's a pseudophorous gland.
Yeah, sudoriferous gland, right.
Okay, so the ones on the eyelids are oil, and the ones on the eyelashes or
Well,
sweat.
yeah, they're both on the eyelids and they both open
Mhm.
up, but there's two different ones. The ciliary glands are sudoriferous, and
Mhm.
then the others are just like sebaceous glands, oil glands.
Okay. Okay. But
That's,
they both they secrete different things, correct?
yes, yes, yeah. One's an oil,
Mhm.
sebum, there's like an oil, and the other one is basically sweat. You know,
Okay.
yeah.
And that's in the hair follicles, right? The one with the sweat.
Yes, yes.
Okay.
That's
Thank you.
correct. Very good.
What is this one? The sudoriferous?
Okay. Let me show you this. Let me open up the stuff about the eye. I think let me see where that was. It was like it's accessory structures of the eye. So it's back. Oh, right here. This slide. Remember this? Let me get this out the way. Tarsal glands and ciliary glands. The tarsal glands, those are the glands of Zeiss, the sebaceous glands. That's sebum, remember? It's like an oil. Uh-huh. And then ciliary glands, that's just like sweat, like it's kind of like a watery kind of material. Associated with the eyelash follicles. You know, remember I said that you really don't know that most people don't realize that they have these things until there's like a problem with them, you know, and they get cysts and styes and chalaisia. I've never heard of anybody call it a chalazion, but that's a thing, I guess, like, or a cyst. I think most people call them cyst, but anyway.
So like the sebaceous is underneath your
It opens at the surface of the eyelid. Yeah, yeah. Mm-hmm. So, yeah. Uh-huh. Okay. Anybody else? Another question about anything?
What is the ectoderm like exactly?
What is the ectoderm? Is that what you're asking?
Yes, sir. On the brain, it says that it forms like from the ectoderm, and I was like, I don't know what that is.
Okay. Let's see. Let me.
It's on the nervous system slide.
Yeah, let me find that for you. Let's see. Nervous system. So what slide were you talking about? Like around here?
Isn't that one of the germ layers?
Yeah, yeah. Well, is this what you're talking about? This, the brain development begins at about 3 weeks from ectoderm. Is that what you're
Yeah,
asking
that's-
about? Okay.
Yeah, that's what I'm talking about.
Yeah. Let's see. Where was I talking about? Let me think. What was that lecture? I'm trying to think what lecture that was when I was talking about.
Isn't that in an anatomical terminology, like the first lecture?
I think so. Way back then when I was talking about,
The germ
no, it's
layers?
tissues. No, it was when I was talking about tissues, when I was talking about development of, like, classification of tissues. We said that, tissues of a certain type have the same embryonic origin. And that's when I got into all that. And gosh, you have to go back and look at what's this. It's going to be the histology lecture. This is back right here. This slide right here. Remember ectoderm, mesoderm, endoderm? And I was talking about this because this is where all your tissues of your body come from. And you know, the endoderm, that's like the inside, the inner gut, the alimentary canal. See this opening right here? That's the same opening that's it's in your stomach, in your intestines, and et cetera. And the cells around it are going to form like the walls of the intestine and your alimentary canal and so forth. And this middle layer, mesoderm, that's kind of what's sandwiched between your guts and the outside body wall. And that's all the muscle and connective tissue, right? And then the outside, ecto means outer, right? And derm, like when you think derm, you think like skin, but it's not so much skin as it is integument, but it's skin as in like a layer, like a tissue layer. So ectoderm, the outermost germ layer. This outermost germ layer forms your skin, but it also contributes to your nervous system. And so if you look right here, this is how it happens. This is that outer layer, the ectoderm right here. And this one portion of it forms this thickening plate called the neural plate. And the neural plate kind of grows and folds in. They call it invagination. To invaginate means to like to fold in. And it comes in and it kind of pinches around and forms this tube. And then that's how your central nervous system is formed. It forms into this long hollow tube. And then from that long hollow tube, let me see, where's my, like right here. See, it's a tube, but then the rostral end, the end that's eventually going to become the brain and the head, you get three swellings. So it's no longer just a straight tube. On one end, that straight tube forms these three primary brain vesicles, the prosencephalon, the mesencephalon, and the rhomencephalon. And then those are the three primary brain vesicles. And then from those three, you get the 5 secondary brain vesicles, okay? And then from the 5 secondary brain vesicles, you get all the adult parts of the brain. You see how it's color coordinated there? And so I just wanted you to know, make sure how those are all related and what forms what and so on and so forth. And that's why we talked about the cerebrum, when and how we did. And, remember the cerebrum, that's from telencephalon. That's all this orange area and so on and so forth, But it's all, you can trace it all the way back to ectoderm, right? You see what I did? So it's ectoderm, from ectoderm, neural tube, primary brain vesicles, secondary brain vesicles, and all the adult parts of the brain.
Okay, yeah, I got it now. I just wasn't like putting it together. Like it wasn't, I don't know, like I wasn't getting it.
Well, I hope you got it now. You got it now?
Yes, sir, I understand.
Good. Well, that's, I say this all the time, there's method to my madness. I mean, there's a reason why I talk about things in the order I do, to kind of build on it. And so hopefully in the end, that light comes on and you understand. And so, but we can, that's why we have question and answer, so we can kind of go back and rehash certain things and so you can make sure that you can get everything falling in place, come together. Okay. Anybody else?
I have a question about the autonomic nervous system. Okay. Okay. The sympathetic nervous system, it says the flight or flight division. So does that mean like when your adrenaline's pumping, like when I think of fight or flight, I think of like adrenaline rush.
Right.
Like, is that
exactly.
when like, and then the parasympathetic, it says rest and digest. So is that when like your body is calm
Yes.
and like it's just functionally normally?
Yes. Yeah.
And then the sympathetic, is that when like your body's in overdrive kind of? Like?
Yes.
Okay.
That's exactly right. That's exactly right. Yep.
Okay. Thank you.
So I'll piggyback on that because I have a kind of a question that deals with the same thing. So norepinephrine is both a hormone and a neurotransmitter, but in the sympathetic nervous system, it's considered a neurotransmitter.
Norepinephrine is a neurotransmitter. Yeah. And its effect on the body is it depends on the effector,
Okay.
That's why I have these things over here, they respond differently to norepinephrine. They'll either become excited or they'll be turned off. Like, for example, to kind of summarize it, I guess you would say, that's what they kind of nickname it, the fight or flight division, because this is the response that you would normally have in a a high energy fight or flight situation. Because you think about that, you're gonna take off running. You want your cardiopulmonary output to be in high gear, right?
Right.
You don't want to be, wanting to lay down and take a nap. It's just the opposite. But at the same time, this neurotransmitter, where it would activate your cardiopulmonary output, it kind of shuts down smooth muscle activity. So it doesn't stimulate everything. Some things it shuts down. And that's why you have this autonomic nervous system. Two neurotransmitters, one, turns things on and one other turns things off. They kind of cancel each other out. But norepinephrine is just the name of the neurotransmitter. Sometimes it's called noradrenaline. It's the same thing, noradrenaline, norepinephrine, same thing. But adrenaline or epinephrine, that's what's secreted. That's a hormone, secreted by your adrenal gland. Yeah.
Okay.
But they basically, when you see nor in the front, that's a neurotransmitter. Without it, it's from your adrenal. Yeah, that's the only difference. Yeah.
I got it.
But they
Okay,
they
I
function
guess
the
that's
same
what I
way.
was
Yeah. Huh? Did you get
so
it?
whenever you have norepinephrine, you also have yeah, I got it.
Yeah, it's the same thing. I mean, does the same
I
thing.
got it. I don't know if my internet connection. And then also, can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay. And then the only two parts of the brains that produces hormones are the hypothalamus and the epithalamus. Is that correct?
Well, let's see.
Besides the actual
that's interesting
glands.
how you stated that, because as far as brain tissue, never really thought about it, because the epithalamus itself doesn't produce any hormones, but associated with the epithalamus, there is a gland, an endocrine gland in there, the pineal gland.
Right.
And I guess it's, that's, I have to look into that more specifically. I never really thought about it like that. It's not really, I guess it's derived from brain tissue, I guess originally, but it's not really considered brain tissue. It's considered an endocrine gland, okay? Like the pituitary gland,
Okay.
it's considered a gland. Now, when we talk about parts of the brain, like neuroendocrine tissue, you remember that? And I said it's the hypothalamus, because the hypothalamus is truly a part of the brain. Okay, it's not considered an endocrine gland. It's part of the brain, but it produces hormones, and that's why it's not really a gland. It's what we call it, a neuroendocrine gland or a neuroendocrine-like organ or something like that. So, but if you want to talk about parts of the brain that produce hormones, the epithalamus by way of the pituitary or the pineal gland, and then the hypothalamus by way of, well, the hypothalamus itself actually produces hormones, but then also associated with it is the pituitary gland, which is a gland.
Yeah. Yeah, I'm trying to connect it all. That was the only way I was getting it.
Yeah.
But I got it.
Okay, good. Anybody, did you have a question?
I just follow up question on that. The long post ganglionic fiber, can you show me where is that supposed to be? Like how is it connected?
So,
The long post ganglionic fibers and pre-ganglionic fibers.
the pre and post ganglionic fibers. Oh, okay. Yeah, you got long ones and short ones. Remember all that kind of thing. Let me do this. Make it look like this. Let's see. Does that look right? Yeah, kind of like that. So everybody can kind of see the same thing. These are the ganglia right here. We talk about ganglionic fibers. Now this is the ganglia of the sympathetic nervous system. See, sympathetic nervous system. Parasympathetic looks a little bit different. Excuse me. But these are the ganglia here. They're right next to the spinal cord. So remember we talked about the spinal nerve, the rami, the roots of the spinal nerve, dorsal ramus, ventral ramus, and the communicating rami. Okay, these are the communicating rami coming out right here. They're short, they're very short, and they connect to these ganglia. These are the paravertebral ganglia or the sympathetic chain ganglia. And then the actual nerves that innervate the effectors, or they go from here out. They're real long, so they're different. They're structurally different, and they're functionally different because they release norepinephrine. Okay, and that's the fight or flight division, right? And then let's see. Let me page up. I think. Hang on. And this one, remember the cranial sacral division? These are cranial nerves. These are sacral spinal nerves. These are the pre-ganglion, because the ganglia for these are closer to the effectors. Pre is closer, yeah, to this brain and spinal cord. And post, it just means after. After the ganglia. So like from here, the ganglia are closer to the effectors. And since they're closer to the effectors, they're much shorter. And they produce a different neurotransmitter. It's acetylcholine, okay? Because they're different. There's just a completely different neurotransmitter. So these are long pre-ganglionic fibers, and these are short post-ganglionic fibers. Just the opposite. Everything's opposite, you would think, opposed to these. See, here's the ganglia, and then these are real short pre-ganglionic fibers, and these are real long post-ganglionic fibers. Yeah, sympathetic, parasympathetic. Okay. Anybody else who has another question?
I have another question about the eye.
Okay.
Okay, so on the fibrous tunic, which is like the white of the eye
Yeah.
and the cornea. So like I understand what the function of the white of the eye is, but like what is the function of the cornea? Like I don't understand. It says clear anterior extension. So like what does that
Okay.
mean?
Well, let's see. Right. Let's see. Where did I talk about? I think maybe right here. Right here. Yeah. Remember, there's like if you look at this diagram, you see how it's got 3, 1, 2, 3 tissue layers right there. You see that?
Yeah.
See the white one, and then that kind of veiny, kind of pink one, and then the inner yellow one. Well, the outer layer, they're called the fibrous tunic. It's very fibrous, and it's white. It looks just like it's the dura mater of your brain. Really, it's the same thing. And you remember the dura mater, the outer white capsule encloses your brain. It's one of the 3 meninges. Remember all that? Well, if you think about that stuff, and it's the outermost layer, I mean, it's opaque. Light can't go through it. And if you follow it, and then right here, it's no longer opaque, it's clear. Okay, so your cornea and the sclera, that's 2 parts of the fibrous tunic. The sclera is the white part, the cornea is the clear part. It has to be clear because it has to allow light to go through it. Does that make sense?
Yeah. So
Yeah.
let's see, the conjunctiva, does that cover the cornea and the sclera? Because it just says the membrane over the sclera.
Right. It doesn't cover over the corn. I wouldn't say that. I'm trying to find it. What is that? It's like, it'd be accessory structures of the eye. It'd be like right here. You can kind of see, okay, here's the cornea. I guess maybe it covers a little bit of it, but most of it, no. Because here's the sclera, and then the sclera kind of segues to the cornea, and so right there. But this is an inner mucous membrane kind of line. You see, it folds down, it comes onto the surface of the eyeball. You can't really see it. If I take somebody's eye and retract the lids, you can't really see it because it's kind of clear. But it's just right barely on the surface, but most of it's, it's kind of sealing off the back of the eyeball. So you can't get behind the eyeball,
So
that's why it's there. That's why it's there, to kind of seal it off, to prevent stuff from getting behind it. Yeah.
Okay. Thank you.
Mm-hmm. Okay, anybody else?
Can you explain again how the spinal nerves are offset in the cervical ones again? Remember how you said it starts at this, the first one starts at the skull, and then right underneath it is the first spinal nerve?
Oh, you're talking about the 8 cervical spinal nerves and all that?
Yeah, and how like just those cervical ones are offset. Remember, they're kind of
Yeah, what am I talking about? Let's see. Right. I think. Is it here? No. Here. This.
yes.
I think I had this is no, was this it? I thought I had a slide that kind of summarized all This looks like it. No, this is it right here. Is this what you're talking about? It's 8, 12. Now, you know, remember the vertebrae? You get 1,
Yeah.
2, 3, 4, 5 different types of vertebrae. You get cervical,
Right.
thoracic, lumbar, sacral, and coccygeal. Is that 5?
Right.
Cervical, thoracic, lumbar, sacral, and coccygeal. Yeah, that's 5. Well, and then you got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 groups of spinal nerves, and they're all associated with those vertebrae. Okay, and they all pretty much follow suit, you know, with the numbers and so forth, except the cervical. Remember you have 7 cervical vertebrae, but you have 8 cervical pairs of spinal nerves. Okay, so how does that
Yeah. How is that?
occur? You know, well, the gosh, you know, it'd be nice is if I could draw. Here I tell you, there's C1 through they're all named just like the bones are named, the vertebrae are named. The vertebrae are C1 through C7. The nerves are C1 through C8. And so I tell you right here, C1, the nerve, emerges between the skull. Pretend this is the skull, and then this is C1, the atlas.
Mm-hmm.
It comes out right there. It's like on top of the atlas, between the atlas and the skull. That's where C1, the nerve, comes out. And then C2, the nerve, comes out on top of C2. So like all of them are on top of the vertebrae below it.
Right.
Yeah. So if you get down to like C7, the vertebra, and T1, the vertebra, all right, you got those two.
Right.
Between those two is going to be C8.
C8. Okay. Okay.
And then, so in the beginning with T1, underneath T1, the vertebra is going to be T1, the nerve.
Okay.
And then from there on down, if you find the vertebra, doesn't matter if it's T1 or T7 or T12 or L1 or L5, they're always going to be right underneath. It's real easy to figure it out, because if you find the vertebra, the one that's coming out underneath it is going to be the corresponding nerve. They all
Right.
follow suit like.
I was forgetting that they only have 7 cervical vertebrae. That's
Yeah.
why I was like, wait, 7, 8. But now I
Yeah.
understand.
Like the skull, you know, you got your skull, and then 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7.
Right.
And they come out 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8.
Right.
And then you start with T1. And then T1, underneath T1 is T1, the nerve. And then T2, the bone, then T2, the nerve, and so forth. Yeah,
Got it. Thank you.
that's how it works. Okay. Anything else?
Okay, I have another question about the cranial nerves.
Okay.
So the 5th cranial nerve, the trigeminal, I don't know if I'm saying that right.
Trigeminal,
Yeah, that. So the next 3, the I don't know how to say them.
ophthalmic,
Yeah, the maxillary and the mandibular. Those are all like underneath that one. Like, are they all the same but like different?
Well, the trigeminal nerve, the 5th cranial nerve, it comes out of the brainstem for just a short distance, and then it splits into 3. So it's like one nerve that splits into 3 nerves. Remember how the vestibulocochlear nerve, cranial nerve number 8, it says splits into 2. It splits into
Right.
it splits into the vestibular branch and then the cochlear branch. One's for equilibrium, one's for hearing. And
Right.
that's the same thing here, but this one comes out and it splits into three. It splits in one, ophthalmic means eye. So it's like the upper third of your face, like where your eye is, your forehead and the top of your eye. And maxillary is the one in the middle. It's like associated with the upper jaw. And the mandibular, is where your mandibles down here. So that's what it basically does is, general sensory to the each third of your face. But then there were some extra little things I included too. Motor part, muscles of mastication, those are chewing muscles, that's for the mandibular. But
So that's why it's a
basically,
mixed.
yeah. So that's what it is. It's trigeminal, it's just like, it's like three nerves in one. Well, they
Okay, thank you.
Okay, you had a question.
Just a follow-up question for your nerve thing about the plexuses. Can you explain that to me? The cervical plexus, see what this is like, how the nerve- the peripheral nervous system, the one that she was talking about, the nerves. There is on that side, the cervical plexus.
Oh. She's asking about, wait, let's see. Spinal nerves, I think, like this, cervical plexus, brachial plexus. Remember, let's see, let's go back up to the branches. Where was I talking about? Not that. Spinal nerves. Hang on. Not that. The roots. Yeah. Okay, right here. Okay, real closely, you can see that here's the spinal nerve. The spinal nerves form from a dorsal root and ventral roots, and they come together and form the spinal nerve. And then from the spinal nerve, you have branches or rami. Remember that? And I said that the dorsal root goes back and innervates the back and the musculature. And then the rami communicantes form that's part of the sympathetic nervous system. But then the ventral root, the big one, they kind of clip it off right here. But if you follow that, it would come way out like this and come wrapping around. That's what forms the nerves for your torso. Okay. Now, assuming that you were like a segmented earthworm, all of them would be just like that, but you're not. You have arms and legs. So you follow your vertebral column down to the level where your arms and legs occur, and that's what's going on here. C1 through T1, that's up like associated with your arm, okay? And then you go further down, L1 through C sub 0, that's down like where your legs are, okay? And so what happens is these ventral rami, they don't come out and service your torso. They come out and they form nerves for your arms and legs, okay? And so the collectively, those branches, look right here. You can't hardly see what's going on, but here they are right here. See, they're coming out and they're kind of merging together to form a network of interconnected nerves. And that's what they call a nerve plexus. And you have 1, 2, 3, 4 nervous system plexuses. There's a cervical plexus, brachial plexus, lumbar plexus and sacral plexus. So these are all the way down. And if you look, they're forming like just bigger common nerves that are going out to the arms and legs. So that's all that is. Okay. But they're formed. So what do you need to know? Well, they're formed from the ventral rami of spinal nerves. I didn't really go on to talk about which nerves of the appendages they form. That, I didn't get into all that. Specific types of nerves of the body. See, like right here, they got a sciatic nerve and coccygeal nerves and sacral. I didn't talk about that.
Is that gonna be important to study?
No.
Okay.
Just what I talk about. What I talk about and what I have written. Yeah. I'm just using these. Yeah. If it's on the picture and I didn't talk about it, don't worry about it. Yeah. Because, yeah, it's, no such thing as too much knowledge. I mean, if you want to learn more, you can. Trust me, there's a whole lot more I could pack into this.
I see a lot of
Yeah, there's a lot of stuff. But anyway, still got people coming in. Okay. Who has another question? Anybody?
I got kicked out. I don't know what
Oh.
you were saying.
Well, I'm asking if anybody has another question. I didn't kick you out. Don't blame me.
No, I know it was my it's my Wi-Fi. I don't know what's wrong with it.
Oh, yeah, sometimes that happens. You live out in the sticks?
Yes, sir.
Yeah, well, that's what happens out in the sticks sometimes. Depends.
want me to ask questions?
Yeah, I have another question in the class. Okay.
Can you go through real quick in this anatomy of systemic anatomy? Like, I know if you go really deep, but from here, like the common iliac artery, is the next one is the left and right internal iliac artery or arteries of our
Okay, she is asking about human systemic arteries. And so let me find, here it is. Cardiovascular stuff. Let me make this a little bit bigger. And yeah, this slide right here. She can see that, but let me get it so everybody else can see it. She's asking about the iliac branches. Now, if you look up here, you see where they have common carotid, the right common carotid artery, left common carotid artery, and they show you their branches. You see that? Remember I said, anytime you see common, expect the following branches to be internal and external. Almost, it's always like that, common is, that blood before it splits, right? But they don't show you down here. But I'm, letting you know that exact same thing is going to happen down here. That the common iliac artery and the right common iliac artery, left common iliac artery, that's for your left and right appendages, your legs. All right. But the word common lets you know that it's going to split just like the carotid splits. You're going to have an internal carotid, an internal iliac and an external iliac. Okay. the internal iliac, you know, you have a right internal iliac branch and a left internal iliac branch. They do the exact same thing on the left and right side. The internal iliac arteries stay internal. Get it? Stays inside the pelvic cavity. Okay. And so what's inside the pelvic cavity? Well, your bladder, your rectum, your uterus, if you have a uterus, if you're a guy, you have prostate gland, you know, things associated with your bladder. Just think of anything in your pelvic cavity. I mean, it's blood that's going to be supplied to from the internal iliac arteries, which are branches of the common iliac arteries. All right. So what's the other half? You know, when the common iliac splits, when it branches, what's the other half? Well, if one half of it's internal, the other half is going to probably external, right? And they call it external because it leaves the pelvic cavity. It becomes more superficial, becomes external. Same thing up here. Remember the external carotid, it's more external, it's more superficial. So it's the side of your head. And the internal carotid, internal is deeper and actually enters the base of the skull. So down here, the external iliac, the word iliac, by the way, iliac, what does that mean, iliac? It means of an ilium, I-L-I-U-M, which is your hip bones. Remember the os coxa, ilium, ischium, pubis. Remember those? And iliac means of the ilium, of the hip. So iliac just means, you know, of the hip, you know, pelvis, you know, the pelvic cavity. So that's what it's referring to. So external iliac means out of that, superficial to that. So it's leaving the external iliac, which is a common branch of the common iliac, leaves the pelvic cavity and serves the leg. Okay, so it's going towards the legs. The internal iliacs actually stay in the pelvic cavity. All right, does that make sense? Okay. Anybody else out there? Right there? Do you have any questions? I got a little bit of water left. That's it, I'm all done. What about you guys? Any other questions? Remember, there's three things: nervous system, special senses, and cardiovascular. And I think I have all those open, plus some. I opened up histology. You know, that was on the first test. But I said, my tests aren't not really technically comprehensive, but the tests themselves kind of build on each other. You know, to do well, you know, on the following test, you know, you got to have an understanding of the material beforehand. But I'm not going to go back and ask you specific histology questions. You know, I use, you know, the histology in asking questions. I don't know if that makes sense. Anyway, but basically your third test is going to be on 7, 8, and 9. You know, nervous system, special senses, and cardiovascular. Okay. But it helps to understand anatomical terminology and histology first before, you know, doing all that. And then our second test was all about bones and muscles. That was kind of different. Anyway, any other, what? Okay, we have another question. What's your question?
Okay, the anatomy of systemic veins, the same way as the systemic arteries,
Uh-huh.
like same thing, like the common iliac branches too, and then.
Yes, you see this? She's asking about, do the veins do the same thing as the arteries? Yes, they do. For humans, it's the exact same thing. Remember when I was talking about veins, like describing veins opposed to describing arteries. When I say the arteries split and they branch into other like smaller branches, you know, like branches on a tree, you get smaller and smaller and smaller. And I often say this blood vessel gives rise to, and that's how I word it a lot of times, like the common iliac artery gives rise to the internal iliac artery and the external iliac artery, okay? That's because they're splitting and getting smaller. Now, I would say just the opposite when I'm describing the veins. In describing the right common iliac vein and the left common iliac veins, I would say something like, from the union of the internal iliac vein and external iliac vein, you form the common iliac vein. So the smaller veins merge to form larger veins. You see how that works? Because the veins come together, they unite to form larger veins. They don't split and form smaller veins, they unite to form larger veins. You know why? Because they're basically formed by the direction of blood flow. You know, the big ones, the arteries form by splitting and getting smaller and smaller and smaller and smaller. And then you're down at the capillaries. And then from the capillaries, it's coming back and it's headed back towards the heart. And so they join each other and they're merging to come back to the heart. And so like this one, the right common iliac, left common iliac, see how they're coming together? They come together and they actually form the inferior vena cava. So the inferior vena cava is formed from the union of the right common iliac artery and left common iliac artery. That makes it. Okay, say that again.
I mean, like is it the superior? No, yeah.
This is the inferior. This is the inferior.
Yeah, the superior and the inferior vena cava. That's why they become big because of those veins.
Yes, she's asking, is that why they become big? Because they're being joined by other veins? Yes, yes. See the arrow? The arrow is coming back like this, and this arrow is coming like this. This blood is coming to here. This blood's coming to here. It forms this big one right here. The inferior vena cava is formed from the union of the right common iliac vein and the left common iliac vein. Now look at this. The superior vena cava, this one, is formed from the union of the right brachiocephalic vein and the left brachiocephalic vein. So these two veins, this one and this one, come together to form this one. And in turn, the brachiocephalic veins are formed from the union of the internal jugular veins and the subclavian veins. So the right subclavian vein comes together with the right internal jugular. These two together form the right brachiocephalus. See how that works? And that's how I'll word it on a test. You know, like this vein and this vein merge or unite to form which vein? Or name the veins that unite to form this vein, you know, something like that. That would be talking about veins. And arteries, you say, you know, this artery gives rise to, or, you know, it splits into, I wouldn't say splits into, I normally say gives rise to, you know, like the celiac trunk gives rise to the hepatic artery, the splenic artery, and the what? Well, I forget what I said. Gastric, you know, gastric, hepatic, splenic. Those are the three main branches of the celiac trunk. Okay. Or I may ask you something like, which of the following artery supplies blood to the small intestine? Is it the superior mesenteric? Is it the inferior mesenteric? Or is it like the celiac trunk? Something like that. You know, you should know that most of the small intestine is supplied by which artery? You remember? Oh, you should know that. Or say, which of the following artery supplies blood to the stomach? That's pretty easy. Is it the splenic? Is it the superior mesenteric, or is it the gastric, or is it the hepatic? Gastric, yes. Stomach, that's pretty easy. Stomach, gastric. Splenic, that's pretty easy. Spleen, get it?
Also, you were talking about the main branches.
Okay, say that again. Now I'm gonna look at you.
Is that the main branches you were talking about in the systemic entity? The
Uh.
hepatic, artery, gastric artery, spleen artery?
Yeah, those are three. She's asking about the hepatic artery, the splenic artery, and the gastric artery. Those are three branches of the celiac trunk.
Okay, so that's.
Yeah, those are three branches of the celiac trunk, which in turn is one of the three unpaired branches of what? The abdominal aorta. Those are good questions. Remember, there's four parts of the aorta: the aortic arch, the ascending aorta, the aortic arch, the thoracic aorta, and the abdominal aorta. 1, 2, 3, 4. Got it? You know, which branches come from which? You know, so like the right coronary artery, is it a branch of the ascending aorta, the aortic arch, the thoracic aorta, or the abdominal aorta? Let me ask you one more time. The right coronary artery, is it a branch of the ascending aorta, the aortic arch, the thoracic aorta, or the abdominal aorta? She says, the ascending aorta with a big question mark over her head. Yeah, it's a branch of the ascending aorta. Right. Or I can ask you, is the, how about, I'm coming up with some good test questions. Okay, I'm gonna come up with one. The inferior mesenteric artery, is it a branch of the ascending aorta, aortic arch, thoracic aorta, or abdominal aorta? So she says it's in the bottom part, so that must be the abdominal aorta. All right, very good. Yeah. Which of the following blood vessels drain the kidneys? That's pretty easy. Is it the iliac veins, the gonadal veins, I'm trying to think of some bad answers. Renal veins. What drains the kidneys? Yeah, it's renal. Anytime you're renal, think, yeah, kidneys. Now, maybe there's there's another one, like the, remember the right and left gonadal veins are a little bit different. Remember that? So the right, let's see, how can I say this? Remember the right ovarian vein drains into what? The right ovarian vein. The right ovarian vein drains into, or it joins what? Drains into, or it merges with the right ovarian vein. What does it drain into? The what? Well, the right one. The right one. This. Okay, yeah, but do you understand what this is going? What this says? It says the right drains into the inferior vena cava. See, this is the inferior vena cava right here. This is the right side, so it's tapping directly into it. Now, if I said the left ovarian vein, it drains into what? Well, it does not drain into the inferior vena cava, not directly. It does eventually. The blood eventually makes it into the inferior vena cava, but it merges directly with the left renal. Yeah, yeah, yeah. You both gonads, the right one, the left one. The right one goes into the inferior vena cava, but the left one, if it's a testicle or an ovary, it doesn't matter. It goes into the left renal first, and then the blood. If I get, it'd be nice if I had a picture of that. I guess I could probably find a picture of that. Like share my screen, I could probably get out on the internet here. Watch this. I can do this. Look right here. Ah. Now you gotta be careful searching on the internet. You know, you talk about reproductive stuff. You're always one click away from some kind of porn site, so you gotta be careful. All right, but this looks pretty legit right here. Okay, you see right here is the right ovarian vein. It dumps directly into the inferior vena cava. IVC stands for inferior vena cava. See that? But look at the left one. The left one is draining the ovary. It doesn't go in here like this one. It taps into the left renal. Okay, you see that? And in the males, it does the same thing, except this one, if this was a male, of course, he'd have testicles on the outside of his body, but this blood vessel would, go to his left testicle. But it still does the same thing. It taps in right here. That's just, veins are weird like that. And this is how it is in humans. Most humans is like this. Sometimes there's still some other variations, but it's always it's nice. We have access to the internet, and you can, if you want to look at something real quick, you do what I did. You just type it in. You be careful. You're searching for stuff. Anytime you use the word testicle, ovary, or sex. Remember, sex only means one thing in biology class. It's gender. But on the internet, it means something completely different. So be careful. All right. So can you all out there? Yeah, I'm sharing the screen. I'm just hoping you guys can see this. I think you can. So any other questions?
So which one drains, the right or the left? I'm confused now.
They both drain. See, here's the ovary. Here's the right ovary. Here's the left ovary. The right ovary drains, the blood drains, here's the right ovarian vein. And it's joining into the inferior vena cava. I mean, this is all blood going back to the heart, right?
Mm-hmm.
And but on the left side, see how the right one comes in like this? But on the left side, blood doesn't go into the inferior vena cava, it goes into the left renal vein. And then from the left renal vein, it goes into the inferior vena cava. It's just the pathway the blood takes on the left side of the body. Why? I don't know. It's just how you're built. It's just how, because not all mammals are like this. Some of them are, but not all of them. And that's just kind of how the blood flows for some reason on that side of the body. It just kind of converges with the renal on the left side before it gets into the inferior vena cava. But on the right side, it just finds its way into the inferior vena cava all by itself. Okay, and that both sexes are just like that. Okay, although, like I said, this is the gonad, right? The ovary, that's a female gonad. And the male, his gonads on the outside of his body. So it's much longer because it actually has the vein will follow, the testicle out into the scrotum. And so it goes all the way out. Okay. But it anchors, to the left renal on the left side. And then on the right side, it anchors to, taps into the inferior vena cava directly. just like that. So, but they're both draining the gonads. So, anything else? Anybody? And look, in here, you can kind of see the right common iliac vein. This is the left common iliac vein. In the background, you can see a little branch right there. In the background, you see a little branch right there. Those are the internal iliacs. And after the internal iliacs, you got these big long ones that are coming out to the thigh. That's the external iliacs. The arteries do the exact same thing. Remember, and I said the branches of the internal iliac supply blood to stuff that's in here. Here's your uterus. That blood to the uterus, you trace this back, it's going to dump into the internal iliacs. That's what it's for. And then the external iliac, you follow that out, it's going to go and, well, it's coming from the thigh. And of course, there's things that are dumping into the veins that are going to form the external iliacs. But I didn't go out that far, just learn the vessels that I have on my charts there. But I mean, there's several more vessels you could learn if you wanted to on your own. Trust me, I'm sure you know that. So, how are we doing? You guys, any other questions? Hope you're getting your questions answered. Yes, you can ask. Let me see. We still have 12 people. So maybe your questions are helping them too. So what's your question?
My question is the hepatic portal system.
She's asking about the hepatic portal system, which is pretty important. Cardiovascular. That's our last slide, I think, right here. Yeah. This is the inferior vena cava, okay? It might not hurt to look at another view of this. Let's see. Let me find a good one here. This is, yeah, see, some of these get pretty, some of them get pretty busy. Hey, look, there's my thing right there. And that's why I try to simplify it, to take out all the kind of distractions, But let's see, what would be a good one? I guess let's look at this one. This is pretty good. See in the background there, that's the inferior vena cava. Remember, that's the inferior vena cava. That's the one that's going to go up to and dump into the right atrium. In turn, it was formed, if you follow it down, it's formed from the union of the two common iliac veins. Two common iliac veins come together to form the inferior vena cava, and it goes up. And as it's going up, it has blood contributing to it, okay? Remember, you had your gonadals that come into it, your renals that come into it, and then you have your hepatic veins that drain into it, okay? The hepatic veins drain the liver, okay? And that's what you see. Here's your liver. There's the liver's capillary bed. See that? And it's blood draining from the liver into here. But where does the liver get its blood? Well, it gets some of its blood from a branch of the celiac trunk. Remember the hepatic artery? Remember hepatic, liver? But it's a little bitty red one carrying oxygenated blood to the liver up underneath here. But most of the blood that's coming to the liver comes from this one big gigantic blue vein right here, which is called the hepatic portal vein. 80% of the blood supply to the liver comes from this one big old vein right here. That's the hepatic portal. And the key word is portal. See that portal, a portal system. Remember, portal systems are blood vessels between different capillaries. See, this is the hepatic capillary, is one big capillary bed here, but then all these other organs kind of serve as like one big giant capillary. The big capillary bed associated with your digestive system. It includes your stomach, your spleen, your pancreas, your small intestine, your large intestine. It's all like one big gigantic capillary bed, we just call the gut. But all that blood from your intestines and all these other organs come together and they form this one vessel right here. That's the hepatic portal. And so all this blood comes into here first, and then it's processed by the liver. Remember, the analogy I gave was that your liver is like your body's refinery. And you have a refinery and you have an oil field. Remember I was talking about that? In your oil field, that's where you get your crude oil. It's crude because it hasn't been refined. So this is your body's oil field where all the crude is. And the crude is collected and it's piped right here. Your hepatic portal is the pipeline. It's piped into the hepatic portal and then it's sent to the refinery. It is your refinery to process that crude. And so your liver processes the crude to obtain usable metabolites. And that's where you get all your body's energy right there. But this one vessel is, that's what the slide was doing. That was showing you like what formed the hepatic portal. See, here's just like another very diagrammatic, here's the hepatic capillaries, and these are the hepatic veins that are draining into the inferior vena cava. And then this from here to here is the hepatic portal. And I said the hepatic portal is formed from the union of the gastrosplenic vein, this one right here, and then this one right here, the inferior mesenteric vein. And they in turn were formed from this and that and the other and so forth. Like right here, I said the gastrosplenic vein is formed from the union of the inferior mesenteric vein right here and the splenic vein coming across here from the spleen, okay? And so on. And basically, the inferior mesenteric vein, like I said, drains mostly the large intestine, and the superior mesenteric vein drains mostly the small intestine. Basically running in reverse to the superior mesenteric artery, inferior mesenteric artery. The only difference here, or one of the, I guess a big difference is, so you have a gastrosplenic vein. It's formed from a splenic and inferior mesenteric. It's not arranged like that in the arteries. So in other words, there is no such thing as a gastrosplenic artery. You have a gastric artery and a splenic artery, but the veins, you have a gastrosplenic vein. Did you pick up on that? Because remember, the celiac trunk was a trunk, and it split into three. It split into a hepatic artery, a splenic artery, and a gastric artery, okay? And then the celiac trunk was one of three unpaired branches of the abdominal aorta. The other two branches, unpaired branches of the abdominal aorta, were the superior mesenteric artery and inferior mesenteric artery. And the superior mesenteric artery was supplying blood mostly to the small intestine, but then is drained by the inferior mesenteric vein, basically doing the reverse. And then the inferior mesenteric artery supplying blood to mostly the large intestine. And then it's drained by the inferior mesenteric vein, which is coming back, it's on its way to the hepatic portal, but it gets there by merging with the splenic vein first. And that's what forms the gastrosplenic vein. And the gastrosplenic vein merges with the inferior mesenteric vein, and that's what forms the hepatic portal. And then these gastric veins, they kind of tap into the hepatic portal on the hepatic portal's way back to the liver. Okay, does that make sense? I hope. Okay. Okay. Anybody else? Or do you have another question? It's okay. We've got time.
So the hepatic portal vein that is separate from the inferior vein, right? The hepatic portal vein is talking about the whole thing is done.
From here to here.
Yes, just from here to there.
Yeah.
Then they fill it up with the liver,
Yes.
and then it goes to the real big thing, inferior vein.
Yes. Yes, that's all separate. Yeah, do not confuse. Listen to me. This, see this big old thing? Okay, right here. This is the gastrosplenic vein, right? Well, actually right here. This is gastrosplenic vein. This is the inferior mesenteric vein. So these two come together for me. So right here is the gastrosplenic, and right here, from here down, is the superior mesenteric vein. So from this point up is the hepatic portal. Okay, this is the hepatic portal. And then this is the capillaries. So this is blood entering the capillaries, and then this is blood draining from the capillaries. You see that right there? This is blood draining the capillaries. These right here, what they're doing is that they're dumping into the inferior vena cava. So right here and here, where it's attaching to the inferior vena cava, that's the hepatic veins. These are the hepatic veins. This is the hepatic portal vein. There's two different things. Y'all don't confuse that. There's a difference between the hepatic portal vein and the hepatic vein. Just the hepatic vein. This is you have one giant hepatic vein, which is formed from the union of the superior mesenteric vein and the gastrosplenic vein. Okay. The hepatic veins drain the liver into the inferior mesenteric. That's this big blue one in the background. That's one view of it. Let me look at another view of it, like that. Like maybe this one. See, this light blue in the foreground is all the, what they call the hepatic portal system, okay? This is all blood draining from the guts to the liver. See, there's the liver in the background, and this is the hepatic portal going into the liver. And then these little dark blue ones in the background are veins draining from the liver into this big dark blue one in the background. That's the inferior vena cava. So these dark blue ones dumping into it from the liver would be hepatic veins. So these are three hepatic veins and one large hepatic portal vein, which is formed from the superior mesenteric vein, gastrosplenic. Well, this would be gastrosplenic vein right here. This is inferior mesenteric vein, etc. That's another view. Just look at a few different views and it'll start making sense to you, I think, I hope. Like this one, this is pretty good. Yeah, you see this? All the light blue in the foreground, and well, I guess that's kind of a darker blue in the foreground and the light blue in the background. See, here's the, right here and here, these are the common iliac veins, which are formed from the internal iliac veins and the external iliac veins. So this is the inferior vena cava, up, 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 up. Right about here would be the diaphragm, and to go through the diaphragm there, etc. And see, here's your liver, big old liver, and it's drained. You see, it's being drained by hepatic veins, okay? But blood is going to the liver. Most of the blood is coming to the liver by the hepatic portal vein. That's this one, which is formed from all these other veins coming together to form it. And so they're draining all these other capillary beds. This is a capillary bed, this is a capillary bed, this is a capillary bed. It's all coming together right here, okay? This is the hepatic portal vein. These are the hepatic veins, okay? Makes sense? That's a good illustration there. She's done. Are you guys done? Has anybody left? There's 11 students left. That's okay. 11 students. Who are my 11 students? It's Tyler and Jade and Marissa and Glenda, and I'm putting you on the spot. Caitlin and Brittany and Lenora and Lily, Madison. Any of you guys have any questions?
I'm
Yeah.
good.
Somebody's good. I'm not. When you
Lily's
I don't-
good.
who's good?
Lily.
Lily?
Lily's good.
Lily's good. That's Lily Broussard looks like, I guess, maybe.
Oh, one more thing.
Oh, one more thing.
From the heart, you said from the coronary artery, there is like marginal arteries.
Mm-hmm.
Is there like a left marginal arteries and right marginal arteries? Or just one?
No, just
Marginal arteries.
just margin, yeah, on the right side. Yeah, that's fine.
All right.
Okay, we done?
Done.
I actually have a question about lab. I'm sorry.
You have a question
because
about lab?
Yeah, we
Okay.
haven't gone to lab in like two weeks because of Good Friday, because my lab's on Friday. So because of
Well,
spring
that's
break.
true. Nobody's been to lab in 2 weeks.
So I was just wondering, like, I know we have lab Friday, but our test isn't Friday, right?
No. Oh, the lecture test, yeah.
No, I mean our lab test though.
No,
Okay, just
No.
making sure.
no, your lab, your next lab test is gonna be your final. Yeah, which is during the last week of class.
Okay, that's what I thought. I was just checking. I was because I
Yeah,
couldn't
no,
remember.
no, we don't have a lab practical before the last one. I mean, we have 3 practicals, right? I think. Isn't that 3? You had 2 already, haven't you?
Yeah, but I'm taking it. But the last one.
Mine, yeah. So yeah, I think it's you just have 3, just 3 practicals. Yeah. I think, yeah. Your third and final practical is during the last week of class. Yeah. So I mean, you're if you're in my lab, you haven't had all your material. I haven't talked about everything yet. And I think coming up, what am I talking about? I think blood vessels or something last time. I don't even remember. I have to go back and look. It's been a while. It's been 3 weeks since we've talked.
Yeah, no, that's why I couldn't remember. I was like,
Yeah, no, I'm just gonna go over more models, I think. I think it's maybe respiratory, digestive, or something like that. I'm just gonna go, like I did before, I'm just gonna go over the models and point out stuff. I may have like a split screen kind of thing, and do that. And then I'm gonna do that for the rest of the semester, which is not a whole lot left. I mean, we have 2 or 3 meetings before the final practical. So I did nervous system, special senses, I think. Did I do blood vessels? Well, you're not in my class. Did I do the cardiovascular in lab yet? I don't remember.
I don't remember. I don't think so.
There's a heart model in the lab.
Yeah, but my lab is attendance in my lab is optional. And what I do is I go over everything on Zoom.
How do you do the test?
It's online.
Online?
Yeah.
Not looking at the-
No, it's all online. But you actually have a practical, you show up in
Yeah,
person?
You show up and then you walk around and then.
Yeah.
I mean, there's some more.
Yeah, right. That's how I used to do it, but to minimize exposure and contact and social distancing and all that kind of stuff, I'm not doing that. I'm surprised that there's labs doing that. So they're not supposed to do that.
Oh, yeah, I was stressed.
We were instructed by the governor to, if you can teach remotely, teach remotely. I'm doing it. If you're supposed to work, I don't know. But I guess that they're worried about, making sure that their money's well spent. So they're making me come to campus and Zoom like I'm Zooming. Last semester, I Zoomed completely from my house. Well, that was for a different reason, though. That was because of the hurricanes and couldn't leave the parish. But this semester, I said, no, if you can come to campus, come to campus. We've got to see that.
Yeah, but the lab, like, you're taking a test, you have to wait for them finish because you know that.
And do you disinfect the station?
No, you don't disinfect.
Yeah.
You have to wait till her finish with that model.
Right.
And you are on time, so it's like you're basically wasting
I-
Your parents
I
just wait because it's like, it's not like 1, 2, 3.
Yeah, right.
So you have to go the
Right,
next model,
right.
this one, it's just kind of.
Everything's, okay. Well, I'm gonna go. You guys can email me questions if you want. And, you know how I do my office hours too. My office hours via Zoom. We can Zoom. That's cool too. You know, we can do that, set up a time. Go to the course policy sheet, see when I have office hours. Shoot me an email and say, hey, can we meet? And we'll meet via Zoom. And you can do it by yourself, or you want to do it with a group of kids, students, you know, that's fine too, however you want to do it. But good luck. And I will see you guys Thursday for your exam. Don't be late. You know, tune into your Zoom early and be waiting so everybody kind of make sure all your connections and everything are good. You know, you got reliable access to the internet. For you people who live out in the sticks, you know, that's important, right? So I have to be able to see you, to Zoom, you know, all that. And, log on to your My Courses, et cetera, et cetera.
What happens if accidentally you get knocked out on the face? That means you're.
I gotta at least see you, yeah.
That's good.
But you know,
Do I need to have 2?
you don't need to have 2. No, just to do 1. You'll be fine. You'll be fine. Because I have to make sure that you know, it's you taking the test, and because I record that, I record your image. You know, I got to see, because that's why I haven't run into problems with students using other students' login. They go, give me your link so I can log in. And then I got 2 Jane Does. I got some dude that says Jane Doe, you know, it's some guy's name or some girl, some guy with a girl's name. I said, look, that's obviously not you. So I don't know who this guy is taking a test under a girl's name.
In the middle, like, for example, just in case in the middle, and
You get
camera is got.
something happens, you get, well, just
like
hope it
that.
doesn't happen.
Or I'm already put out or something.
Okay, I'll see you guys later. But you'll be okay. You'll be fine. Just pray that it works.
No.
I know. You, I have to say that, you know, failure to have reliable access to the internet is no excuse. I have no other choice. And they told us when we first started setting up on Zoom on this campus, they say the students can't use that as an excuse. So, all I can say is I'm sorry, you know, life, that's life. But anyway, just hope it doesn't.